My name is Andrew Townley, and I'm the founder and Chief Executive. And what I do is help the Global 500 build effective value and security programs. I've written 3 books on security architecture, AI effectiveness, and organizational value delivery. And it's really all through the alignment of security programs with the rest of what the organization is about. And that's what we're going to talk about today. In addition to all of those things, I'm a certified SABSA security architect, and I'm also a certified Amplio consultant educator and agile coach. So today we're going to talk about reimagining cybersecurity in the time of digital transformation. So let's start with the beginning. Transformation. So what is digital transformation? Well, digital transformation, it's something that's being talked about like it's a new thing, but the reality is that it started back in the 80s when the PC was invented. I remember I got my first IBM PC in 1981, and that's really when things started to change. And over that time, we've been, automating and adding more digital infrastructure to the organization. But it's really just more of the same idea. And the idea is businesses want more technology and automation because they want to move faster, they want to execute better and more reliably and more consistently. And really, that's not changed. The thing that's really changed is the speed at which that happens. So again, it comes down to fundamentally just one thing, and that one thing is change. So we need to be able to enable the organization to change. But the thing is, we don't. What is it that we're told security does? Well, most of us, it's about controls, right? It's about blocking things and stopping things. And so what does that mean? Well, if you actually look at what we do, the gist is we exist to prevent changes. And sure, there's an implied qualifier there that's supposed to be prevent bad changes. But is that really what tends to happen? Or is the reality in most organizations something completely different? We just keep adding more and more technology and more automation, but the core is still the same, and that core comes down to just that one thing, which is that we end up preventing change. So what is the real problem? Well, the real problem is that digital transformation is asking certain things from us. It's asking for change. First and foremost, that's really what it's all about. That digital transformation is supposed to enable is our organizations to adapt. And then they want to experiment, and then they want speed. Right? Time to market. That's really everything. That's what it's all about. And what that is supposed to do is the, elusive business agility. It's kind of like unicorns. We've been talking about this for decades, and yet we still haven't managed to deliver it. So why is that? Well, let's look, because what is it that security mandates? Well, security mandates controls, and then security says, okay, we've got all those controls. Now we need to approve those controls exist or that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And all of that means that we're really managing a bunch of restrictions. And then what do those restrictions do? Well, they end up preventing things, right? We prevent things from happening. Apparently, we're supposed to prevent bad things from happening. But do we also prevent projects from going live? Do we prevent delivery from being done? And we can say, and we can justify that, well, it wasn't done correctly and we stopped it and we're doing it to protect the organization. And that's true. But what that really means is that the focus of security is about restrictions and prevention and compliance, when that's pretty much the opposite of the things on the other side of the divide between business and security that we talked about last time, and that we've been talking about for decades. The problem is you can't deliver either business transformation or security independently. But that doesn't stop us trying. We're both trying very hard every day. There's lots of people working very hard around the world to try and accomplish both goals. But the result is actually that we don't. This is a graph that I put together when I was putting together my book for executives, and the research that I did found that the average delay due to security for large projects in large global organizations is between 8 to 12 weeks. Now, I told you at the beginning that I work with the Global 500, and so the average Global 500, let's say, makes about $90 billion a year in annual revenue. So if you divide all that out and you look at a typical project like, say, the CRM implementation, that expected value is supposed to add something like, $2 billion to the top line revenue. So let's look and see what happens as we get later and later and later from a delivery point of view for security. Well, it means that if we are 8 weeks late, we have lost $308 million, which is, that's what the return that was expected on there, which is, around 18% or so of what it was. And if it continues out, it's almost 25%. That is the value of that project that was expected to be delivered whenever it was supposed to be delivered 8 to 12 weeks before, that we'll never get back. And this is what I call the opportunity cost of delay. And this is really what's killing organizations, because we aren't reimagining security in terms of digital transformation. We're still trying to do the same things we've always done, the exact same way we've always done it, and it's really not working. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at why this happens. And I love this Pogo cartoon. You probably heard the thing or you've seen the image before, but Pogo was from 1971. And it was talking about trash in the forest and why this happens. But the famous quote was, "We've met the enemy and he is us." And we in security are basically in that same boat. We are trying so hard to do what we've been told to do that the result is we're actually getting in the way of accomplishing what it is that we think we're trying to do, which is to enable and protect our organizations. So why is this? Again, we're trying to understand what is wrong, because if we don't understand what's wrong, how are we going to reimagine security to better support it? So what we're told we need are all these things: more automation, more tools, more reports, more people, more enforcement, more maturity, and more rules. And we get stuck on this, more, and better and faster. And we think that if we just do more, then we're finally going to accomplish our goal in security, and we're going to stop all the bad things from happening, and we're going to enable and protect our organizations. But the problem is that actually assumes that that's the problem. But it isn't, because if we do more and more and more, what are we really doing for the organization? Well, it leads to friction. And friction is anything that slows down the organization from getting what it wants. And all of the things that we're doing in security, the way we're doing it now, pretty much can't help but add friction. That's just the way we are doing it today. And unfortunately, it's actually friction by design. We talk about security by design, we talk about safety by design, but the reality is that we are engineering friction by design because we have a security program that is focused on the objectives that we have, and we have a digital transformation program that is focusing on all the things we talked about before. And so the difference is we have these two sides, and they are actually working directly in opposition with each other every day. And we feel this as security professionals. We know this friction. We get called into projects at the last minute because nobody wanted to talk to security when they were supposed to. And we're supposed to solve these problems, or it goes through because people went around us, and then it breaks in production, and then we're expected to pick up the pieces. But this is not right. It can't work. So we need to really look at what we're doing in security and think about, well, what is it that we're actually managing? What are we doing every day? And the reality is we are managing standards and controls, and we're managing incident response. And so all of those standards and controls basically go into the vendor landscape that we have. This is the example from the I can't remember the organization, but their cybersecurity landscape that they do periodically. And we get the controls from the standards, we get the tools that the vendors keep implementing for us to help, and that feeds into our incident response cycle. And then we have gaps, and then that gives us more controls, and then that feeds back into the standards. And this is what we are doing. We are spending our time in this loop managing controls and incident response, but we need to also look at, well, how is it that we're managing these things? And this is a typical organizational structure that's currently, it represents industry best practice, right? We've got the CISO, they are connected to program management. We've got the GRC team, we've got identity and architecture, we got cyber operations, and then they do all those things. But the reality is each one of those is often a silo that focuses on what they're supposed to do, but without actually understanding not only how they relate to the organization and how what they do is supposed to truly enable and protect what's happening, but also each other. Because we treat GRCs separate from identity and architecture except for policy enforcement. But that is another source of where the friction comes from. And if we do things like automate it faster with, the GRC engineering is a big thing right now. But if we are doing that and it's in a silo, what are we really accomplishing? So what we're doing and what we have to realize if we're going to reimagine security is that we're actually managing people and things. We're not actually managing to help business outcomes. And that's the biggest disconnect we have. That's one of the biggest problems that we need to address if we're going to reimagine security for digital transformation. Because what does the business want? Well, they want outcomes, right? They don't want controls. They don't want security. We take that as, well, they don't care. They don't want to listen to us. If somebody continually comes to you and says to you that we're going to slow you down, and then the answer to that is more controls and then more talk and stats and metrics about those controls and maturity models about those controls, and that's not related in any way to anything you care about, what is going to happen? I mean, if somebody came up to you and started talking about underwater basket weaving as their hobby, and they wanted to tell you all about it, and you were trying to get to work, how would you react to them? Would you stop and listen and say, tell me more about it? Or would you say, yeah, okay, I gotta go, I got stuff to do? That's the dynamic that's playing out in our organizations, because from the organization's point of view, we're talking to them about underwater basket weaving and they're trying to get to work. So if we want to do things differently, we need to understand the outcomes that the organization really wants. They want more customers, they want more markets, they want more people to buy things, they want to grow and employ new people, or AI or whatever it is, more products, partners, revenue, and profits. And so we need to understand these things, and then we need to understand how they do it. So how does an organization deliver all those things? Well, it turns out that there's really three. If you step back and you look at what an organization does, and you go from the benchmarking things that are commonly used, like the APQC process framework, and so you've got basis to look at across all organizations. There's really only three things that an organization does. They do strategy, and then they figure out what they're going to deliver, and then they do delivery, and then they actually figure out, well, did that delivery work? Are we getting what we want? And so there's this feedback loop of an improvement stream. So I call these the three core value streams of an organization. And this is great from a security point of view, because if we look at these, then these things that are on the screen right now, that's all an organization does. So if we want to know what security needs to do, then, well, it's pretty easy. We need to figure out how we can help all of those things happen while still doing all the things that we're mandated to do from a regulatory compliance and legal perspective, and all of those things that we know how to do. The thing is, we will still need to do all of these things. We just need to shift and reimagine how exactly we do those things. And that's the trick. So how do we do it today? Well, today we're kind of fixated on things like maturity models. And we think that even though we're told, well, you don't have to be level 5 on everything, but that's actually what we are graded on, right? Well, why are you only at level 2 for this? And then you have to explain, because, well, 2 is less than 5 and 5 is optimized, and well, why aren't we optimized in all of these areas? And so that drives the maturity model bingo card, and we manage to the bingo card, and we think that if we improve things like the CSF maturity or any other maturity model that we're using, that, well, security is getting better, security is getting more aligned, and we're actually doing better. But maturity models and control implementations, that's not necessarily alignment, that's just filling in the bingo card. So that really just brings us back to this, right? So we've got to look at how we organize, and the organization is trying to do this, and we're managing in stovepipes. So again, we are the same opposition because we're not organized to support delivery. We're organized for security because we've carved off security as a thing, and the more we've disconnected it, the more we've organized and optimized ourselves, and we're in our little world, and then there's inherent conflict with what the organization is trying to do. But wait, we have metrics, so that's going to make it all better. Well, the problem is that we get buried in all of these dashboards, and what those dashboards are doing. I mean, if we look at what our metrics are reporting, well, what are they reporting? Well, it leaves us on this hamster wheel. We're talking about compliance, we're talking about cost, we're talking about AI tooling and policy as code and automation, and look how well we're doing at all of these things. But one of my biggest influences, Russell Acuff, has a great saying that I love. And it says, doing the wrong thing right just makes you wronger. So we have to do the kinds of things we do in security today. So the mechanics are right, but the wrong thing that we're doing that makes us wronger is how we focus, how we organize, where we prioritize, and how we integrate security into our organizations. Because the thing is, it's not about policies and controls, it's actually about ensuring outcomes are actually delivered. So, okay, where does that leave us? It leaves us in the realization that if we want to do better, if we want to change things, where does our problem come from? Our problem comes from seeing security as a thing. So we can't see security as a thing anymore. We need to see security as an outcome of doing the right things the right way at the right time and work towards that. Because if we can do that, then we can redefine security as the degree of confidence that you get what you want. And that redefinition is the key that unlocks reimagining the way we do security for our organizations. So if we take that as truth, then there's only one way that we can accomplish this. We have to reorganize our security programs. We have to where we break down the silos between the security functions themselves and recognize that all of what we're trying to do is actually connected. And this is the underlying real security architecture that we need to deliver, because that architecture is really the system's definition for how secure delivery happens, how we make sure the organization is safe. Because we can't just keep glomming things on the outside without understanding the nature of how people do their jobs and what really needs to be protected. But yet, again, that's what we're doing. So we need to understand that digital transformation doesn't change the mechanics of what we do. It changes, we must deliver it. So, okay, great, Andrew, but how, right? So we go back and we look at these three core value streams the organization does. Every organization on the planet does these things, whether they're agile or not, or large or small. It's in there somewhere. Otherwise, the process classification framework from APQC wouldn't have these things to where we can roll them up into simple task descriptions like this. It just isn't possible. There wouldn't be a way to benchmark organizations if fundamentally all organizations didn't share some certain characteristics. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we need to figure out where security goes. And the work that I've been doing over the last couple of decades or so is figuring out exactly where security should be connected and interact with the things that the organization does. And that's where all the little agile security system locks are on all three of these points. And it's clear that there aren't very many that don't have a security input, but that is a collaborative input. That is not a, here's the policy, go do what we tell you input, because that's not input. That's trying to direct people to do things through control and coercion. And we need to get out of that mindset, and we need to come at it and say, okay, what is it that you're actually trying to do? And how can we help you do that best? Now, we're going to have situations where what they want to do is shoot themselves in the foot. We don't own that. We have to own presenting what is correct and true and right, and making that case and delivering that effectively and documenting it, so that if they go ahead and do the wrong thing and shoot themselves in the foot, that we have a defensible position that says, look, this is what we recommended, this is what we allowed, and they went around it. That doesn't mean that we have to do it our way, because there's generally more than one way to achieve an objective, and that flexibility needs to be baked in. That's part of the reimagining. It's not implement this control set or this policy or do it industry best practice. It is a collaborative engagement effort with the organization that says, what is it you're trying to accomplish? What must be true for that to happen? And how does security help you make those things true as much as possible? And the reality is, the organizational structure of security, it really doesn't matter. We can organize the way you're organized today, but the thing is, it's about how the work gets done, how work flows across and through the security team. That's the reimagining we need to do, because that's about what we do, not how we're structured to do it. And the where we do it matters, because we've got to figure out how we're going to actually integrate each one of these locks, the security input, into the right part of these value streams, and understand that strategy happens on certain triggers. So when does that happen? When do we need to be involved? What kind of involvement does that require? How does delivery work? Do we have all delivery working the same way? Is it agile? Is it not? And then how do we hook into the improvement things? There are specific things that, I've understood how all this works for the last couple of decades or so, and helped organizations do this. So it's not obvious, because if it was obvious, then you wouldn't be struggling with the friction that you have today, and we wouldn't talk about reimagining cybersecurity for digital transformation, because we'd have figured it out. Like I said, digital transformation, if you change the buzzwords, it's the same thing that's been happening since the 80s. And we've had really smart people in technology and security working on security and integration and business delivery all this time. And if we had the right approach, if we understood how to really enable and protect and support our organizations, don't you think we would have figured it out, and you wouldn't feel the friction you feel every day? Of course. So that means we're doing something wrong. There's something we've missed. And that's what I'm talking to you about today. That what did we miss, and how can we do it differently? And it starts with understanding the organization and how security must fit into everything the organization does in a collaborative and not adversarial way that it often happens today. But with that, I hope that makes sense, because we're after integrated security about value delivery and focusing on delivery of value to our customers. And if we do that, that's the shift. That's what reimagining what we are about. We are about integrated value delivery. We are not about managing people and controls and those things, because we've been there and done that. When we make this shift, I have clients who made this shift over 10 years ago, and they're still doing this, and they're successful, and they haven't needed to change the way they're organized or what they do. They've just iterated and absorbed all of the requirement changes and legal changes and whatever else, but they haven't changed what they were doing, because what they were fundamentally doing is what you're looking at right now. And that's the reimagining and change that we need to do. So with that, I hope it was useful and helpful. And I'm Andrew Townley. Well, I think the answer to that is pretty obvious if you ask the question, well, what are we optimizing for if we measure each of those things? So if we are measured by incidents prevented, well, first, how do you actually prove you've prevented an incident? And second, if we look at incidents, the incentive is to enable more incidents that we therefore could prevent. So if we build in problems into the code or the projects that we're doing, and then we find them at the last minute, then we've prevented more incidents, but we've actually reduced the quality of the things that we're trying to deliver. Russell Acuff has a good saying about this too. Basically, if you focus on not getting the things that you want and focus instead on what you don't want, then you have 50% chance of getting something you want even less. So the answer to this is that we need to start measuring security in terms of how easy it is for security to do what it needs to do in parallel with delivery, integrated into delivery. So we start measuring the delays due to security, and we want those to go down. We start measuring the number of times security integration to a project is a special case versus that it's something we've already designed for, because we understand the organization, we understand how it works, we understand what's important, the technologies, and we're prepared for it, because that's actually what proactive security is about. So the answer is we have to talk about how we are measurably engaging with the organization so that they can competently and safely transform. And that's a whole different conversation than the latest threat reports or all of the controls we're doing or where we are on our magic maturity models or whatever it happens to be. So I think the first part of the answer to this question, it's a great question, because right now we are in lots of technology and security, we're fixated on complexity. And we think that if we just have the right tools, then we can figure out which quadrant we're in or how to make complexity go away. The problem is that that's not how complexity works. Complexity is there whether we choose to pay attention to it or not, and we can't make it go away. What we can do is we can choose where we want to focus our attention, and we use actual system science and systems thinking to understand what resilient value delivery is in our organization. And there's a relationship between each of those things that are on the three value streams that I shared you. And if we understand what those relationships must be to enable secure, accelerated value delivery, then the complexity that we're actually paying attention to sort of melts away, because it's not relevant to what it is that we're focusing on. So we change the view that we have of complexity based on where we focus. So if we understand the system of value delivery and where it will break, and it breaks when something that is necessary for the organization to deliver value isn't there, or it's not as expected, or it's there, but it's not usable in the right way, or it's not consumed. And these are those 3 core operational risks that we talked about in the May session. And that's where things go wrong. And those apply. And that's an example of how you take all of the things we worry about today in terms of the complexity associated with delivery and security and technology, and we sort of change where we focus, and suddenly all of that melts away into 3 things that we need to worry about. So it's really, this reimagining is pervasive across how we see everything. So if we focus where we can really control what we can do and how we respond to events, rather than worrying about all the things that we can't control, then that's how we get the accelerated digital transformation. If we try and worry about all of the potential unknowns and enumerate those like we do every day in security most of the time, then yeah, it's complex and we get overwhelmed. And we're too busy doing that to pay any attention to what's going on at the organization. And we make a proxy of, well, if we have visibility and then we have controls for the things that we have discovered, then that's going to be the right thing. But again, we have proof every day that that approach is not the right thing, because otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation today about how do we make digital transformation smoother and more secure and faster so that we get real resilience. And that is really the way. We have to reorganize how we think about security, how we integrate with the organization, and focus on that. Because if we focus on doing the right things, then we will get the outcomes we care about by default. Okay, there's a few ways to interpret that question. Where it starts in the organization is with a business objective in terms of growth or revenue or markets or a new technology that needs to be absorbed because it delivers one of those things. So, if you look at something like AI, that is making a huge difference in many organizations. Now, organizations are doing it badly, but that is an example of where, okay, we have this new technology. How can we integrate it? And how can we make that part of digital transformation so that we can achieve all those things that I talked about on the slides that the organization wants, profit and time to market and agility and all of those things. So it can start with a technology that appears, and then we need to figure out how we in our organization is going to be able to integrate and adopt that technology faster than our competitors to give us an advantage in the market. Or it can start the other way with a business objective. We want to figure out how we can deliver something new and special to our market, because based on what we've observed in the market from our competitors, what people buy, how they use what they buy, the problems that they have, then we identify a gap from an organizational strategy point of view, product strategy point of view, and then we say, okay, well, we need to build a product that delivers that. And it could be existing technologies, it could be we need to invent some new technologies or whatever else. But that is really the only 2 areas where digital transformation generally starts. It either starts from a new technology that appears that needs to be integrated because it's a competitive advantage if you do it first, or you do it not necessarily first, but better and more effectively than anybody else. Or you have a new business objective, a new product, market opportunity that you want to deliver, and then you need to be able to execute on that as fast as possible. So therefore, the digital transformation has to reconfigure or build new solution capabilities in order for you to do that. So those are, if I understood the question correctly, those are the 2 ways that I think are the best way to answer that question based on what I know. Yes, actually, in fact, many of them make it worse, because what a lot of those legal requirements tend to do is they focus on the activities and the things, and we end up measuring what we do rather than how that actually enables the result we care about. So this is one of the dangers with reactive legislation, which is kind of where we are in the world today. If you look at the EU regulations around DORA and a lot of the other things that are happening, why do those things exist? Back when I first started in business, I read a book about what you need to do in contracts and legal, and there was something that has stayed with me always, and that is every contract is basically just a story told in reverse of every bad thing that happened to that organization or that industry and where things went wrong. So contracts are reactive. We found this problem, so we're going to put text in there that says we're never going to have this problem again. And we're going to do it based on what we know from solving that problem. And every law and every regulation is the same thing. And so if we think that activity, our underwater basket weaving stuff and metrics and all of that is what is the right thing to do, well, then what are we going to institutionalize in terms of the legislation that holds us accountable? Well, we need to demonstrate more, right? We're back in the more mantra of, well, we've got to do all of these things, and if you're not doing those things, then you're not doing security. But every day we're doing those things. We're automating those things. We're doing them better, faster, and more reliably with bigger budgets than we've ever had in history. And we're still not doing it right. But many of those legal and new regulations, yes, they hold people accountable. They hold CISOs accountable. But the question is, for what? Delivering business outcomes? That's not the language that I see. It's you must maintain a maturity thing. You must demonstrate controls in this area. You must do X, Y, and Z, which is basically all of the same things that we're doing now, because people are struggling to do it. But they're not struggling to do it because they're not doing the things. They're struggling to do it because those things are not the right things to focus on. So I believe that it's actually getting worse with a lot of this legislation rather than better, because we are codifying and setting in stone now what the right thing in security actually means, without actually tying it to business delivery in most cases. Now, some of them try, and some of them are better than others, but in aggregate, no, I don't think it's going to actually make a difference at all. It's just going to get more people in trouble with more fines and probably send people to jail. But it's not actually going to change the security landscape. It's not going to change breaches. It's not going to do anything other than add more overhead. Well, there's a number of ways to answer that question. I suppose the biggest, you can dive deep into all the technical aspects of the current LLMs and AI technology and how it's being deployed in harnesses and all of that. But the main thing that I think the concepts we need to understand about AI are that it's all the same. It's still input that goes into some service that we don't control somewhere else that does some stuff. And whether that stuff is on our machines, our local environment, or it's remote, or it gets processed in ways that we don't understand, again, it's back to the main concept is AI is no different than anything else, because there are limits to what we can control about AI. And again, we can do the technical things inside, but we need to, everywhere we're deploying AI in terms, especially agentic AI, we need to treat it just like it was a human, in terms of, well, we can't control what the human is going to do. So we make environment in which that work happens as resilient and reliable and robust as possible, so that no matter what the agent does or no matter what information it's given, we are still clear about what our exposure is, what the implications of that exposure are going to be, and what are the things that we can and can't actually manage if the agent attempts to do stuff. And I mean, I've been doing a lot of work in AI and agentic AI for the last 18 months or more, and this is the biggest gap that I see. We focus on, prompt injection, we focus on hardening, and we focus on all of the, red team AI. Well, if you understand how it works, of course that's possible. And that, again, is just reactive stuff. But where it's really going to make a difference is, how do I, regardless of what the AI agent or somebody, putting information that they have available to them and giving it to an AI, what am I going to do about that? Because that I can control. The implementation, the ownership, the dependencies. I mean, last Friday, Anthropic had an API outage for 2 hours. And I did a LinkedIn post about this because I don't think anybody is actually understanding the collective aggregate opportunity cost of delay of a centralized dependency like that. So your organization is dependent upon Claude or Anthropic or anybody else. Anthropic is just one example. But if they're down for 2 hours, what are you going to do? Oh, we've rolled out all these agents, we've rolled out all this AI, and it's great until it stops, or until they revoke your account, or until, and so those are the AI risks that we need to focus on managing first, because the technical things we know how to solve. They're variations on the same problems we've had for decades. It's just manifested itself differently in that specific technical implementation, which, yeah, we need to know how that works. But if we can't manage the other stuff, that isn't going to be enough to keep our organizations up and running. It's not going to be enough to be able to keep agents from running amok and doing things we don't expect, because we're, again, focused on the wrong things. We make sure we have an understanding of what must be true, what must go right, and how well we can manage those things. And AI agents are no different. AI is no different. We need to treat it as if it's something we cannot control, rather than, oh, hey, look, it's tech and we've got controls and and we can control it. But that's not true. So that is the core AI concept, if you will, that is going to make the difference between whether organizations successfully and safely adopt AI or not. Well, this is kind of a sales process question. There are many variables there in that question. I mean, what are you trying to help the organization do? Where can you actually add value? How are you going to help security demonstrate value? All of those questions are questions that you need to be able to answer. And so the specifics are down to the nature of the industry and the clients and the type of solutions that you offer. But I mean, fundamentally, if we're reflecting it in terms of what we talked about today, it is, how does security demonstrate it delivers value to the organization today? And is that focused on activity counting and metrics that are, reducing the time to recovery or response or whatever it is? Or is it about, yeah, actually, we've reduced the delay from where it was to this, and we've done that enough, and we understand the needs of the organization, and we have the security controls pre-built and integrated, and we're ready to go, and projects know how to use them, and basically they don't need security to be in their way or in their hair at all, because we've all figured this out, and we just make sure that everything is done that we expect, and we monitor that. So, that's the end game. So however your products and offers fit into the end game you believe. Now, I told you the one I believe in, but if you believe in maturity models and control implementation and things like that, then you're going to have a different set of questions than I would. But that one's a really tough question to answer without knowing more about the context in which you're going to need those questions. So that is actually a great question, and it comes to some of these reimagining things that we need to do, and it's aligned with the definition of security that I gave you. So we in security, trust is a word that we use so many times every day, and we don't actually think about what it truly means. What is trust? Well, trust is the confidence that I have that you're going to do what I expect you to do. And that is bounded by a context, because I can trust you to, give me a hard time when I walk in the door, because you always do, versus, if we go out to have a coffee or something, of you deciding that it's your turn to pick up the tab, I may not trust you to do that at all. Same individuals involved, but the thing that makes it different is the interactions and the context in which those interactions take place, because trust is contextually bounded. So, and trust has to be established between individuals and organizations and humans. It can't be established by machines. Machines can implement trust expectations, but they cannot define what means, what trust means in a situation, because they don't have any way to make decisions. And AI is no different. It can't decide what is supposed to be expected or is acceptable. And that's what trust is. So how can we better manage trust in the age of digital transformation? That is a great question, but it's a question that can only be answered if we understand that trust is a list of expectations for a given situation that I expect to be true. And it comes back to everything I said before. If I care about an outcome, what needs to be true for me to get that outcome that I want? And I have to focus on making sure those things are true. So I have to focus on making sure that I get what I expect. And that also means the flip side is that I need to be prepared and know how I can deal with things that happen that I don't expect. That's resilience. So digital transformation, then, if you layer that on top, well, what is the digital transformation expectations here? What is the organization really trying to do? What do they expect to happen? And then you answer that question. So what is trust in that environment? What is trust in that interaction, in that context? And then what capabilities do we have today to deliver it and ensure that it was delivered and that those expectations were met, and then detect when those expectations are not met and then escalate it appropriately. So that is again, this reimagining of even the way a lot of people think about trust. But it comes back to things in SAMHSA and stuff I've been teaching for, like 20 years. Well, that one is, I'm going to tell you an answer that you probably don't expect, which is the opportunity cost of delay. Nobody measures this. We measure the cost of material delays. So, project overruns, we had to pay the team, we, had to pay penalties or whatever. But that line wasn't even really on that graph that I showed you, because it's in comparison to the impact of security adding friction to delays, making it harder to do the digital transformation initiatives that they want, then that is the biggest risk. I mean, that's actually why I wrote the From Invisible Crisis to Competitive Advantage book, was to raise the awareness that actually that is the biggest cybersecurity risk we have for digital transformation. So it's not the technical things. We have the controls we need to deal with the technical things, but we are focused on answering the wrong question. We start with what can go wrong, and that's an infinitely unbounded set. And we can't manage that. And we kill ourselves trying to manage that. But if we start with what must be true, what must go right, that's a whole lot better and smaller set of things that we need to manage. And then we just apply the controls we have. We apply the knowledge that we have today. We don't do different activities, but it's how we focus and where we do it and when we do it that changes. And failing to make that shift and that key reimagining aspect, that's the biggest risk to digital transformation there could ever be. I mean, I think the underlying thing that we need to learn as an industry is to question our assumptions about what it takes to be secure and enable our organizations. Because if we continue to think that we can just work away in our silo and focus on controls and reporting the things that we're reporting now and getting better at, being reactive, then we are not going to actually do anything different tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It'll just be more, better, faster, still trying to do it. And, we'll have security teams of hundreds of people, and larger than the rest of the organization, because we're trying to manage an impossible problem. So the final thing I will leave you with is that, if you are really wanting to grow yourself and help your organization, you need to be brave enough and willing enough to look at the work you're doing and ask yourself, is this really the right work to be done? And unfortunately, that's tough. And a lot of people aren't ready to do that yet. But if you do that, then you can start to see where a lot of the things that I said today really fit in and can make a difference. And I'm not making this up. I mean, this is what I help organizations do. And it really does make a difference. But again, back to the pogo thing, we have seen the enemy, and the enemy is us. And the biggest enemy is the assumptions that we have about that we are doing the right thing. And until we're, as an industry, ready to give up that assumption, we're still going to be struggling and talking about digital transformation for the next 20 years, just like we did for the previous 40.